Hello and welcome to the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman Global Community Facebook group. I'm Ginny Robertson, the host of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, where I talk with real women who are living their lives on purpose and bringing their unique gifts to the planet. I'm also the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine and founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Today, I'm talking with the founder and CEO of Brave Healer Productions, Laura DeFranco, and we'll be chatting about networking for introverts, how to love it, even if you hate it. Welcome, Laura. Thanks for being with me today.
Thanks for having me. I love talking about this. I think it's one of your good subjects to talk about too.
I
So I've been
do. It
excited.
is. Absolutely. You published a new book in December called Networking for Healers. Curating,
Oh.
I was going to hold mine up, you're holding yours up. Curating the conversations, connections, and community that manifest your dream business. And as I've been devoted this past 24 years to giving women opportunities to show up. So I'm excited to have this chat with you. But first, I'm going to tell our viewers a little bit about you. Laura DeFranco is the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, an award-winning publisher for holistic health and wellness professionals. She spent 30 years in holistic physical therapy, is a third-degree black belt, and has authored 13 books. 13 books. Let me say that again. Her company has published over 70 Amazon best-selling books with a global community of over 1,000 authors who are waking the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. You can find out more at lauradefranco.com, and that website link is also in the text of this video. And I also put a link into her book, Networking for Healers. Let me just say first, before we start the networking pieces, I have had the privilege of being in two of your Brave Healer best-selling books. So I'm really honored to have been able to, and they were both last year, so beyond honored to do that with you. But you think everybody should love networking, even if they see that even if they think of themselves as an introvert. So let's see. Why is it important for entrepreneurs to love networking?
Well, I think the way we've been taught it is the reason we hate it. And so, if you want to grow your business and you really love the idea of authentically growing your business, I want you to love networking in the way that I now know networking, right? And I think I was taught, along with a lot of other people, a way that was excruciating. And so, yes, I think if I can love it and have the results that I have had, oh my goodness, I know you can too. I know you can. And I call myself a severe introvert. But some people listening to me right now probably won't believe me that I am that, but that is me at the core. And I recharge in alone time, in alone connection, nature connection, not big groups of people, not big groups of networking events and things like that. So if a true severe introvert can love networking, then I think you guys can all love networking.
I agree. I wouldn't call myself a severe introvert. In fact, in Myers-Briggs, I tested as an extrovert all the time until years after I started doing work on myself. I went back and I tested as an introvert, and I'm like, no, no, I can't be an introvert because of all the negative connotations around introversion. Like you can't stand on a stage and talk to 1,000 people. Sure, you can. I can. But I got to get off the stage and go, rest for 3 days after that, after all that interaction. So you're right. It's that where do we get our energy back? And, the old way that I was taught networking was a very masculine way, strictly masculine. I think we have to have that blend of feminine and masculine, but it was just all masculine. It was all about putting your card in people's faces and all about telling them what you do, not asking any questions, just go around and see as many people as you can in the course of the 2 hours that you have. And it was horrible. And I would come home and I just wasted my time. I met nobody really. And so I'm excited to hear what you think about this topic. And you believe that there's some myths around networking. I might have just hit on a couple of them. I don't know. But what is networking really?
Well, I mean, you for sure hit on him because I think both of us learned that in that particular way, and we went home with the stack of business cards and no relationships.
Right.
And now I'll go to a meeting, whether it's online or in person, as we get back to more in person things. And if I have created one relationship, one great connection or conversation, I win. I can go home feeling really happy and excited by that, as long as I'm ready to nurture the relationship, some more, and ask for
Mhm.
that next conversation. And really, I think one of the things I'm thinking of as one of the most important things for me was the idea that I went to the event to sell my stuff, to build my business. To now, we're all there to build our businesses. That's already a given.
Mhm.
But when I flipped it on the 180 and actually realized that I was there to build relationships where I could serve other people and help them build their business and make connections, and be of service, which is what I love to do anyway.
Mhm.
Everything changed for me, and I went into it with more curiosity, better question asking, better mindset, better attitude. You can hear it. The vibe was raised,
Mhm.
and who doesn't want more of that in their world, networking world, or world in general?
I love
So
that.
those are a couple of things you're making me think about.
Yeah. And 24 years ago, when I started the On Purpose Women Global Community, that was not a common thought. That was not a common idea. And I remember in those early years being at an event, I was asked to be on a panel. And the woman who was moderating the panel was a member of my community, but she's also a member of other communities. And there were about 6 of us who had networking groups. They were all in this big room with a couple hundred people. And a woman raised her hand and said, "What should I do with all the business cards that I get at a meeting?" And she smiled, the moderator. She turned to me and she goes, "I'm going to have Ginny Robertson answer this question." And I said, "If you're going home with that many business cards, you really haven't networked. I would just throw them all away." And I could see the women in the room were visibly like, "Oh, thank you." And the men were like, "What? What?" It was just so interesting to watch the differences in. But then I was able to say more about what you just said, is that I would go home with all these cards and I would get phone calls from people, leave messages and say, "It was nice to meet you." And I was like, "We didn't meet. You took my card. We didn't meet." And so there was no follow up. There was nothing would come out of it because there was no curiosity. And I love that word for this, because when we're curious and we're not, like you said, we're not really promoting ourselves. That's the only reason we're there, is to tell the other people. It does make more of an interaction. People love to talk about themselves, so ask good questions and get that interaction going. And then someone asked the follow-up question, "Well, what if I do that? What if I, spend time, asking questions and learning about the other person, and they don't ask any questions of me?" And I said, "They're probably not your people. There hasn't been a connection. So thank them and move on, But I just, yeah. So 24 years later, it's wonderful to see how much that's shifted over the years to this mindset that you're talking about.
Definitely. And sometimes well, now, especially with a book about it, I decided that I maybe don't know if they're my people, but they may just need to know a thing or two. So, like, I'll go into the conversation and I'll even set the stage for the dynamic. I'll be like, "Hey, Ginny, it's so great to meet you today. I don't know how you do this networking thing, but I was wondering, would you be interested in learning about each other to see if there's really a great intro we could make for each other today? Each other, both ways." Both reciprocal listening and asking, and then you don't get to the end of a conversation without a reciprocal effort coming back to you, because you kind of taught them how you wanted to move into it. I mean, I have never had anyone say, "No, I don't want to do it that way." You know,
Yeah.
they all seem appreciative of that. And then you keep time and you honor it. And so that both people have a chance to talk about themselves. And sometimes I think the biggest favor I'm doing other people is giving them a chance to practice that
Mm-hmm.
and get clear about the way they want to talk about what they're doing, And then it's my responsibility to get clear with questions. I want to be so clear about what you do and who you serve that by the end of it, I can actually make a powerful introduction for you. And if I'm not, I got to be like, Ginny, I don't totally get it. Can you dig a little deeper on this piece and give me more, right? I try to take responsibility as a great networking partner to ask those good questions and get myself clear. That's, I think, one of the biggest things that I like to talk about and teach.
Oh, that is so good, Laura. And you said the thing that you think you mainly bring to them is that they get a chance to practice this. But I also think what you're bringing is this opportunity to like breathe and let go of expectations because you told them what's going to happen. They're not waiting for your sales pitch. They're not like holding their breath saying, when do I get to talk? They're like, I mean, that both people should be invested at that point in at least talking and listening, I think. Has that been your experience?
Oh, definitely. I mean, like even just talking about that right now, don't y'all feel the deep breath and the relaxation that can happen at that point? You're there to help each other,
Mhm.
and you can just relax and be yourself and then take the challenge on. What do I need to know about you? What do you need to know about me? How can we get this party started? And a lot of the times it's not about business at all. A lot of times it's just like, gosh, I don't even know you. And especially online, where are you in the world? How did we get introduced? And I always start with gratitude.
Mhm.
Like the high vibe entry point to a networking conversation is like, I always go back and I try to look first, who introduced us? How did we even get together today? And I thank that person and I'm happy, to meet the one that I'm with that day. So, yeah.
Wow. I know we were going to talk about some practical strategies that you take into networking meetings and events. And so you've given us two great ones already. You got a third one that you just love?
Ah, honestly, the more that I do it, the more that I realize if it's almost like I want to set us up now. I'm talking about mainly on online networking, but why not in the same room too? Like if you're in person and you have your phones and you can work it. I feel like it can be a little co-working session where by the end of the time that you have together, you've actually made an email introduction. You can work with each other, especially if you're sitting at your computer like a lot of us are doing for our Zoom networking and the things that we do. I'll be in a conversation with you and be like, Ginny, what's that perfect introduction for you right now? And you're like, well, a woman who is transitioning or in her business and really wants to be seen and heard in a bigger way. I give them so many cool opportunities like the magazine and the gatherings and all the beautiful things you do, right? And so right away, I'm thinking about one of my author friends, right? Sally. Sally wrote a book. She's a little afraid. She doesn't know how to promote it. She wants to get her voice out in the world in a bigger way. And I'm like, Ginny, give me a second. I'm going to just pop up my email right now because I just thought of somebody and I'm going to make a quick introduction. What's the best way that you want to be introduced in that email? And that makes it easy on me because then I don't have to get it wrong. And you can say, well, you can introduce me like this. I'm Ginny Robertson, the founder of the On Purpose Woman community, and I do this. That you're giving me the words, but I had to ask for them. So a lot of the times we go into these email introductions just kind of doing it our own way without really asking the person, how do you like to be introduced? And maybe you don't even like email introductions. Maybe you'd rather have an introduction on a LinkedIn Messenger. I don't know. I got to ask.
Mhm.
So don't assume. Go into these conversations and be partners with each other in asking how you like this to go down. And that already makes me, if you ask me, I'm like, all right, this gal knows what she's talking about. She respects me by asking. And I mean, it's already high vibe when you ask for those permissions.
Absolutely. And it's not done a lot.
I
So it
know.
does make you stand out for sure. For sure. That you're making me think about some ways that I can do things differently. Even after all these years of doing it, I can get caught up in the process sometimes, especially when it's my event the process, and I'm not necessarily going around nurturing relationships and all of that because I'm making sure that, the new person who came in gets greeted and all of that. And so let's see, you just said something I wanted to go back to. Let me ask you this, because other people watching this might have this question because I know I do. So let's say you meet someone, you're doing this back and forth, and you realize that you don't know anybody. I mean, is that possible that you just can't, or anybody that you want to take? Because don't
I
you think
love
that
this
when you're
question.
recommending somebody that you're almost like endorsing them in a way? You're saying, I think this is somebody you need, you could connect with.
So now you get to the section of the book where I am trying to help people understand the difference between an introduction and a referral.
Mm,
If you have a service that could serve this person I think about, that's a referral. Like, Sally, meet Ginny. She has this service that you need to take her up on, right? And that's not just like, hey, gals, go meet each other. You might have some cool collaboration that we don't even know about yet. That's always true, by the way. I love to go into conversations with that mindset. I don't know what it's going to turn into. Could be total magic that I have no idea about, right? But the difference between a referral and introduction is really, really important. Referrals are made by your current clients. Introductions can be made from anybody. So if you're going out to the introduction world in your networking and you're expecting people who don't know you and haven't experienced your services to refer, you're missing the boat. So sometimes I trade services with my partners. I've experienced them in some way. Definitely, it's a more of a testimonial like introduction. Sally, meet Ginny. You really need to write for her magazine. In fact, advertising in her magazine is really effective. Here's why. Her audience is going to fit you perfectly. I really think you should chat with Ginny about that. I mean, that's a referral,
mhm.
you know? But here's the other piece of this that I love. We're all so ideal client oriented in our brains that we aren't thinking about the million other kinds of introductions I could make for people that would greatly enhance their lives or businesses. Maybe y'all need a bookkeeper or a CPA because you're not happy with current services or you haven't hired one yet. You don't know how to vet them properly. And we get into a great conversation about finances, and you're like, man, I wish I had a bookkeeper. And I'm like, I got the bookkeeper for you. Like, let me make an introduction.
Mhm.
Now, that's a little bit of a referral for her, but we're not talking ideal client kind of networking so much. We're like, who do you need to make your life easier right now? I might have a connection for you. And so I'm always going into these conversations to just get to know the person and where they're at and what they need. Who knows who I know who they need, you know?
Yeah, I love that distinction because an introduction, and you're out of the picture. You really haven't put yourself on the line like you would with a referral, where you're going, yeah, this bookkeeper is awesome. She'll probably do a great job for you, rather than see what you two can come up with. Because I know you've introduced me to a number of people, and you usually will come back and say, okay, I'm out of this now, you two, because you don't want to keep getting the back and forth emails, because that first email tends to go to all, it's like, oh no, I'm out of here now, you two do something. In fact, I'm doing an interview, someone's interviewing me today from a referral that you gave me in December. And we talked on Zoom. It was an instant kind of, wow, I feel like I've known you for years, and so that's what can happen when you do this. And I
But
love that distinction. And something else that came up for me when you were talking earlier was this whole curiosity and the questions. Is you have to ask great questions, but you also have to be what I've come to call a generous listener. Otherwise, there's nowhere to go with it if you're not really fully invested. So were you always a generous listener, or is that a skill that you've kind of, because I think some people think they're either a great listener or they're not. And I think my level of listening sometimes is kind of superhuman because I retain so many things. But don't you think anyone can learn to do it better?
yeah, for sure. No matter where you are on the journey. Oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to say about that. My mind just did a little jumping. Um, this is an awareness practice. It's not just memorizing what you heard. It's being present and grounded and centered and relaxed and receiving mode. It's like consciously taking your deep pelvic bowl breath and being here present in the moment to receive the energy of the other person and hear behind the words. And so, like, we're talking full on, full body listening here. Now, and when I had a couple of questions about networking for healers, they said, well, why for healers? I said, well, I'm a healer and I just wanted to niche my book. And that's one big reason. But the message for healers is you're already good at this. You devoted your life to this awareness practice that I'm talking about. You're already a badass listener. You already know how to do this. So this thing that you do for all your clients, how come you just can't take that into your networking room and practice serving in that same exact way to get to know the person like you're already doing, for your other people? So I think I've practiced a level of that, to answer your question, my whole life, because I devoted my life to that. But then when it was about growing my business and listening for information, I kind of had to know what I was listening for. And now I can grab onto a little piece of information that I just heard and ask another great follow-up question from it, right? So it's full body listening, but it's also like, okay, what else do I need to know? It's a fully present practice we're talking about.
Yeah.
And it is or it isn't. I mean, I also have moments where my dog is barking upstairs and somebody's knocking on the door and my daughter texts me 15 times in the middle of an interview or whatever, right? I mean, we all have lives behind it. So we have to really think about how we need to be present in the moments that we're in and do our best also.
Wow. Again, there's so much I want to say now based on what you just said. Let's see. The I love this whole idea of being fully present. I did a talk for an organization a few weeks ago on Zoom called Conscious Networking. They didn't know what the talk was going to be. It was in a group that, she showed Jenny's our speaker. Let's come and hear what she has to say. It was a group that was already in place, and I decided to call it conscious networking. It's a lot about what you're talking about is this, because in the early days of networking, I know I'd be looking over somebody's shoulder to see who just came in, or I'd be kind of bored with the person and hoping they would stop talking soon so I could somehow extricate myself from the situation, which is certainly not being present or conscious about it. And that also doesn't feel good to me. So let's see.
And that was one of the reasons why I hated networking so much, is because I was showing up in rooms with that business card passing thing going
Yeah,
on. But
yeah.
I was also showing up at like a luncheon table with speakers, and people at the table were talking over the speaker and doing things that would make me nuts. I'm like, I want to listen. Like, don't you want to listen? Like, so there was some of that too that made me really dislike that dynamic. And I promised myself I would be better at that and practice being better at that listening thing. It's so key.
That's always been one of my pet peeves as well, is people talking over, whether they're speaking up front or whether they're at your table, just like, and I've shushed a lot of people in my day at other people's networking events because it just really annoys me. And so I think it's just because we don't know, we just kind of do what we think is right and we watch other people do it. Nobody taught me how to network. I worked for a corporation that asked me to show up at events just because they had to be seen there. They weren't looking for business. So all I had to do was pass out my cards. We were here. Yay, great. When it came time to do it for myself, and interesting that I had no idea what I was doing, I started a networking group. But I had this sense of there's got to be another way to do it than this way that makes me so uncomfortable. And I know you've said this before, if you want to know who your ideal client is, look in the mirror or something like that. If you want to know what you have to offer, look at what you came through, look at what you used to do, how you used to do it. And that is really what has fed me all these years. So what's possible? You talked about authentic networking mindset of just being you, but what's possible when we do that? Other than, I mean, you've said some great stuff already. Is there anything else? Can you expand and make it even more amazing and fascinating?
Always, always. And I mean, aren't we even just talking about conscious living here? Because we're
Yeah.
talking about practices that lead to living a juicy life. I mean, awareness is everything. Being fully in your moment, present with whoever is in front of you, that's a gift. And if both people are conscious of the gift of being in another human being's presence and the energy exchange and the possibility, like you say, wow, what amazing things are possible when two come together like that, right? And we're just talking about the way that we show up and live with ourselves, with each other, in groups, in business, in life. It doesn't matter. It could be at the grocery store. It could, right? So, what is possible for me taking it to a business conversation is like, man, this business is now an empire. And that is because the practice of authentic living inside of my business, really understanding myself and what it even means to show up as my full on self, right? And then there's this little piece of needing to not care about what everybody thinks and just be me there because I know I'm going to attract the perfect right people around me, inner circle, business, friendships, partners, everything. What is possible from there is this manifested, co created life beyond your wildest dreams, including my business. And I don't separate, I mean, my business is what I do every day that lifts me up, fills me up, helps me be who I am. So it's not like I need to stop working and start living at 5 o'clock. It just is who I am and what I do. And when you are that inside of your business and your networking conversations, man, that's fun. I rather live like that, right? There's a quote that I love. I measure my success by the amount of fun I'm having. And if I'm being myself, that is fun, right? So there's so much here, right? To to
Oh, I
to talk
know.
about.
I remember thinking a number of years ago that if I showed up as someone else or the person I thought would best fit into that environment, then if I made any connections, they were going to want that person going forward. And I had to also, I wouldn't even know who she was. So how could I duplicate that, right? And what a terrible waste of time and energy that might be. So we will get clients that are not a fit because we were in this box instead of being ourselves over here. So that's such a great point. All your points are just so great, Laura. Oh my gosh. Anything else you want to say before I want everybody to hear a little bit more about you in a minute, but what's your
Oh,
best takeaway? Can you beat anything you've said so far?
I think I just wanted to make sure not to go away without thanking you for being not only in my book, but on the back of this book. Thank you for your contribution and just for your love of the topic and for always saying yes to my crazy idea collaborations and all the things that we do together. I just really, really value that kind of friendship and networking relationship, right? You're not looking for your business partners. You're looking for perfect partners in life and business, you guys. And it's okay to shoot for those kinds of relationships that always fill you up. It's an always with you, Ginny, always for me. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to Donnie Bovine for teaching me this kind of networking that just catapulted me into wanting to write a book about it, wanting to talk about it more. And it was so effective for me. And also, Randy Mulland is inside the book, you guys, with some contributions because of his passion and purpose of creating a business that has the ripple of generosity and giving and authenticity and all the things, right? And man, if you start to surround yourself with people like I'm talking about, it can't not it's not going to fail. It is only going to be expanding. So don't be afraid to talk to someone new, be your total crazy self, make a new relationship. You're never too old to make a best friend, or a new business partnership.
Total Laura Franco quote there. It's never too late to make a best friend or an amazing networking partnership. Let me just say, this book, I said on the back that this is a book I wish I'd had when I started a women's networking organization 24 years ago. Laura has compiled a treasure trove of practical and heart-centered tools to support you. Whether you love it or dread networking, there's something for you here. Laura's wise words will help you to be more effective and enjoy the process. Laura also invited me to have some tips in the book, as do the two men she just mentioned, Donnie Bolvin and Randy. What's Randy's name again?
Mullen.
Mullen.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for that. I was honored to be part of this. So check that link and go buy that book, because I thought I knew a lot about networking, but there's so many things that I hadn't thought of that Laura puts in
Ginny,
this book.
you know what so turns me on about this? It's, and listen, I love you, men, but women are finally talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
we're doing it in the way that we know works, and full of love and full of generosity and full of gratitude. I love that we, the two of us, are talking about this and leading this transformation. So thank you.
you're so welcome. Laura, how can our learners, that's an interesting, I didn't mean to say learners. How can our viewers learn more about you?
Learners is always the way to go. Beginner's mind. LauraDeFranco.com. You guys come and connect. I'm on Facebook. With me on LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm on all the main social, and would be super happy to chat if you have a question about networking or book publishing or anything else.
And anything you have coming up that you want us to know about?
Oh my gosh, always, always, always. I think the big thing that I'd love to shout out, thank you, is our Brave Healer Writers Retreat. We're going to be in the beautiful Honors Haven Retreat Center May 15th of this year. So if you're ready for a transformational retreat that also could result in you being a published author, come chat with me and we'll talk about our couple of book projects that we're working on for the retreat.
Okay, Laura, send me that email link, not email link, send me that link really quick to your retreat, and I will include that in the text of this video.
Okay, cool.
So thank you. Gosh, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your brilliance, your different look at this topic that I know still a lot of women just, I still hear it. I hate networking. Well, why? I don't know. It just feels hard and it's just not fun. Well, no wonder. Why would you do anything that feels hard and not fun, right? And so thank you for spreading the word and for just your generosity. You're one of the most generous women I know. It's how you live your life and it's how you show up in the world. So I'm honored to call you friend and colleague, and always look forward to what else we can get into together. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ginny.
And thank you for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. Check out our YouTube channel for informative interviews like this one. There are also videos where I chat with the contributing writers of On Purpose Woman magazine about their articles. And we record the speakers at our On Purpose Woman Global Community Zoom gatherings. You can take advantage of all of their expertise as well. And those links are also in the text of this video. Thanks again for watching, everyone.